cheap travel. Sweller, tell me how to travel for cheap like you so I can escape these horrible winter temperatures. Here are my 8 keys to shoestring budget travel. So if you're ready to get to a better climate, let's get started. Welcome to Swellers and Dwellers. Over the past 20 years, I've traveled the world on anywhere from $7.50 to $25 a day. I know what you're saying. It's not 20 years ago, and things are much more expensive now. Well, in 2023, I traveled Colombia for 2 months on $15 a day. My friends, exciting travel is not out of reach. Most people spend a lot more money than they need to when traveling. If you have a lot of money or limited time, then that's fine. Splurging makes sense. But if you're on a limited budget or want to stretch your money to extend your holiday, there are easy ways to travel cheap. And I don't mean being a cheapskate and being stingy. I mean being frugal, which is being smart and careful with your money. There's a difference. Number 1. Focus on countries with a lower cost of living than yours. To find these, just do an internet search for countries by cost of living. There's no way you're going to travel as cheaply in first world or Western countries. Save these expensive ones until you're old and gray or need all the expensive tourist pampering that comes along with expensive first world countries. Some lower cost countries can be harder to travel. The bus didn't show up. Who's gonna puke first? And that rascal tried to drop me off in the outskirts, but are no less fascinating, and in my opinion, are actually far more rewarding to travel in. And you have one major advantage over them. The dollars you earn hold more value than the dollars they earn. Now normally, this is not an advantage because the goods and services you need to live in your home country are also equally more expensive. So the advantage is nullified. But there's a trick. To leverage the power of the dollars you earn in your home country is to save as much as you can, then take that money to the lower cost country where goods and services are suddenly far less costly, allowing you to magically stretch the potential of what those dollars will purchase by leaps and bounds. But that's just the beginning. You haven't really done anything except show up with your money. The real bonus comes from your behavior and the choices you make while you're there. Number 2, get off your high horse. Live like a local, not a tourist. A lot of people look at going to lower cost countries where things are less expensive as an opportunity to live like a royal. But you forgot the live like a local part, which means live humbly. Unless you're very wealthy, you still need to control your spending while you're there. Otherwise, you'll live like a superstar for a short time, but soon be broke again and have to go back home to work. Even in lower cost countries, they'll charge you as much as you're willing to spend for food and accommodation and services. Well, why wouldn't they? But if you stay humble and embrace frugal living like a local, you can turn your small amount of money into a long-lasting nest egg. Whoa! Okay, so we brought our more valuable money to a lower-cost country. Now we're going to try to live like a local rather than a tourist. Let's take a closer look at how we can accomplish that. Number 3, use public transport. Cabs are convenient, but always more costly than public buses. Well, there goes the bus, leaving us off in the middle of nowhere. But hang on, just be careful. When traveling, you'll be offered all kinds of special tourist vans and buses, which are also far more expensive and not what I'm talking about. We want to focus on the public buses that the locals use. Yes, they can be slower. We had to make a short stop because someone barfed in the aisle, so the bus driver had to get the mop and bucket from the back and mop up the aisle. But the bonus is you get to mix with the locals in an authentic way. It can be magic sitting next to a local on a bus or train and having a conversation while they're going about living their lives and not in the mode of seeing you as a target to sell something to. I've even sat next to locals on their way to a tourist area to spend the day selling. And while sitting next to them on the bus, we have a conversation like two normal people, even though I'd be their target if we'd instead have met on the street.
Number 4. Avoid tours aimed at tourists.
Tours to local attractions are convenient and great for people in a rush. But you have time, so you can usually do it yourself for much cheaper, which again gives the huge benefit of immersing yourself in with the locals, but also the freedom to take detours and linger longer in places that you want to spend more time in. Also, when you're in a group of tourists being paraded around on a tour, the locals can be much more aggressive in targeting you with merchandise. I've watched from a distance with amusement as tour groups get swarmed by vendors, while I wander in peace on my own.
Number 5. Accommodation. Stay in guest houses and hostels. And if you're solo, develop a comfort with dorms.
At first, the thought of sleeping in a room with other people I didn't know horrified me.
Am I even gonna wake up alive in the morning?
Once you're over this paranoia, things are just fine. When traveling, I'm out all day exploring and only in the dorm to sleep. A lot of dorms now even have curtains around your bed for privacy. Sure, they can be noisy, but a good pair of earplugs solves that if it's a problem.
Whoops.
But often the dorm is only partially full, and sometimes I really score, and am the only one there, getting a private room for a fraction of the price.
Dorms can also be a great way to meet interesting people from around the world if you're keen to be social. Number 6. Eat at locals' restaurants.
No tourist restaurants full of people who look like you, and no hostel restaurants. These places are like 2 to 3 times the price of what you can get on the street. And they also often focus on tourist food, like spaghetti and hamburgers.
Why would you travel around the world only to eat the same old stuff that you eat at home? Sure, it's okay to eat some comfort food once in a while if you're traveling long term, but try to take advantage of the lower cost local cuisine most of the time. Now the Colombians would probably say, "Oh, but you're not finished." Yeah, I'm finished.
If you can find a place outside of the tourist area, often with plastic tables and chairs flowing out onto the sidewalk and busy with locals,
this, my friend, is gold.
You're going to get authentic local food at a local's price. And the bonus is that if you're at a local's place, you know it has to be good. And especially if it's busy, the odds are low that it will give you food poisoning. Otherwise, it simply wouldn't survive. The truth is, I've gotten ill far more when eating at tourist restaurants than even carts selling to locals on the street. The other benefit is that eating with locals is another great way to strike up authentic conversation and have great interactions. Perfecto.
Number 7. Limit or eliminate partying in bars.
Even if you can get alcohol for cheap, it still adds up and is an added extra expense that I eliminate. For the price of a few beers in a pub, I can get an entire day's meals.
And finally, number 8. Don't get lazy.
It's easy to fall into the trap of saying, this cab or this tourist bus or this hotel restaurant is not as cheap as what the locals use, but it's still cheap compared to what it would cost back home.
Well, this is true. But if you're on a budget and trying to stretch your money, this could soon turn into a habit, and you could soon be spending in a day what could last a week if you were staying frugal.
As an example, I recently took a public bus from the airport to my accommodation for 60 cents. A taxi would have been between $10 and $20. With just this one choice, I saved an entire day's budget. You can see how fast and how easily This can get out of control if you don't stay focused.
If you follow these 8 keys, you'll be able to travel for much less money and for a much longer time than most people, and potentially have a much richer experience. If you don't just think I'm some sort of crazy lunatic, then I'd be humbled if you'd give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. It's the only way you can support me and let me know you like what I'm doing and you want me to continue. Until next time, keep on exploring. Bye for now.